the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 4. The bulk of the episode is spent on how Boba Fett found Fennec Shan left for dead on the sands of Tatooine. After taking her to be repaired, she helps him get back his fire spray gunship, aka the Slave One, and you can't convince me otherwise, Disney.
Or society.
Or society. But mainly Disney, because we know what you're up to over in China. They search for his armor, and in present day, he begins gathering forces to take on the Pike Syndicate. After recruiting Chrysanthemum to join the cause, Fennec and Fett brainstorm ideas for additional muscle, which, based on the piping music at the end of the episode, may include a certain Beskar-clad bounty hunter that we all have a very intimate relationship with.
This is the way.
So, thoughts?
Yeah.
Chapter 4.
The problem I still have with this show is it's just every episode is a little too long, and I feel like there's some stuff that can be gutted. I love the banthas, even though they go slower than anything. But I watch this show with closed captioning because every time it's a side character, I just can't understand what they're saying. I feel like they're mumbling their words a little bit. And I don't know what it is. Every other Star Wars show or anything else, like Marvel, but there's something about this show where there feels like there's mumbling. So it just says like Bantha's breathing every 5 seconds on the show, which is awesome. And I love that. So I'm glad I actually did that. This episode had a plot line that I enjoyed much more, though, with figuring out, the idea of how they met and her backstory a little bit and kind of where it's going. And then obviously with the possibility of Mando making an appearance here. Whether it's next episode, feels like it almost has to be. There's only, a couple episodes left. So
three episodes.
Three episodes left. So feels like it's going to have to be soon. This episode, the action still kind of took a little bit of time to build up, and it wasn't completely a payoff, but it was, to me, this was the best episode so far. And every episode, it's one of those things where like every episode's basically been between like a 6.8 and a 7.3. So nothing's been terrible, but nothing's been great. And this one was a 7.3 for me. It's just, there is a thing where I wish they trimmed the fat a little bit on it. Maybe 3 or 4 minutes would have helped this episode. There's definitely times where I'm like, we don't need this. Like I'm saying it in the moment, and I'm like, well, if it changes, and then it doesn't change my thought at the end, where like we could have done without some certain scenes. But overall, it doesn't change my overall opinion on like where this show is heading, because you're taking a character that we all like and you're building something that we don't know about. And so you kind of have to play it differently. With Mando, you kind of, it sounds weird, but since you don't know this character, you have more free range than a character we actually know. And this is more about character building. That show is more about like, we can kind of go nuts and still have character building. This is like, maybe we have to get a little background. Maybe we have to do this, go forward and back and forth. And also that seems to be the theme for like kind of everything right now, is that we jump forward, we jump back, we jump forward, whether it's movies or documentaries. That's kind of that's the way we do things right now. And that's in the zeitgeist. That's what people have fun doing. So I like this show, and it's so weird. I would say like every episode I like slightly more than the last episode, but there's never been a great show yet. There hasn't been one where I'm like completely blown away.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I felt like this was the best episode. I think that there's pretty strong pluses and minuses for each episode so far. I think that obviously the prospect of Din Djarin joining the fray here is very enticing, but I guess I hadn't thought about that in the way that you put it, where the Mandalorian, it is a character you don't know. And you don't know much about. Even as the show goes on, very little is revealed about him. So not only are you character building, but you are kind of world building. Whereas this character, we have a certain set of expectations, and we've kind of talked about that, how we don't necessarily care for the direction that they are taking him in, being somewhat more of a benevolent character, a benevolent sort of leader, versus we have the expectation that Boba Fett is the most ruthless bounty hunter in the galaxy, and that's what we want to see, is that version of this character. I do still think that that's coming at some point. I think we got a little bit of a taste of it with how he, after he got his ship back, gunned down the biker gang.
Yeah.
The speed biker gang. It just seems like it's just slow. Like, to me, it's got pacing issues. And it's funny because Star Wars Twitter is such a shit show, as most Twitter is.
I was gonna say just Twitter,
but Star Wars shit. Star Wars shitter. Yeah, Star Wars Twitter is a shit show because you have people who are the fandom of it is just ridiculous, because you have people that say like there's nothing that they can do wrong.
Right.
There's nothing, Rey is the best character ever, and Han Solo is the best character ever, and every episode of every show is the best episode ever, and all these movies are great. And if you don't think that every single thing is great, then you're part of what they call the Fandom Menace, which I actually think is kind of funny. But it's kind of prescient. We did the Xbox buying of Activision Blizzard episode last night with Charles, and I had somebody text me today and said it made me feel weird hearing you speak about Xbox, like complimenting them at all or favoring them at all. I was like, if you're going to be a commentator, or if you're going to analyze these things, you have to be objective, right? So I love Star Wars. It's my number one love, right? As far as like media goes. It's not my number one love. Obviously, I have children, but it is.
And your wife.
Just kidding. It is, in terms of properties and media, Star Wars is my favorite franchise, but not everything's great all the time.
Sure.
It's just, it can't be. And I think it's worth noting that Disney Plus saw a pretty big drop off in accounts that are streaming this television show, at least on premiere day on Wednesdays. And I think that speaks to, more so than anything else, I just think the pacing isn't there. Like you've said, the action there hasn't been a ton of action, and it's not a big payoff. And part of that might be Tamora Morrison's age, but there's other ways that you can do action in a Star Wars thing. You know what I mean? It was cool to see a Wookiee finally actually tear somebody's arm out of its socket.
Yes.
Like, that was good. I liked that.
I love it.
But at this point, I can't remember which episode we were talking about when you made this comment that the Mandalorian didn't need Luke Skywalker. It was the cherry on top of the best Sunday ever. Your words. I feel like this show needs Din Djarin to show up to kind of save it a little bit, to kind of inject a little bit of life. You know what I mean? Because that's what it feels like a little bit outside of the two primary characters, Boba Fett and Fennec. And I did like this episode from that standpoint for completely other reasons.
Sure.
But there's not a whole lot of character development outside of those two particular characters. And it's tough for me because I do think this strikes me as something that they would potentially like to move forward with. And I don't think that they're even doing a great job of world building. And I would also add, please, for the love of Christ and all things holy, get off of Tatooine.
Yeah.
There's
you
reason.
gotta get off of Tatooine.
There's no reason that every show and movie and has to touch this goddamn planet. It's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
It's a whole other
An
part
entire
of this galaxy.
Talk about small universe syndrome, man. All the shit happens on this back world, outer rim, third world country planet.
Yeah. I mean, our residents, like residents of Tatooine should be called Tatooiners, but
Well, that's the episode, man.
Yeah. But it's so weird that you said that, because I was reading other reviews of it after I just, I do that comparison. And I was like thinking to myself, before I read any reviews, I'm just like, are we ever just going to get away from Tatooine? It's just, I guess you got to Tatooine yourself off of it.
No.
But there's so much else, and yet we can't get away from Tatooine.
It's like the crazy part about it, excuse me, is that the original trilogy, the first episode takes place on Tatooine and then the Death Star primarily.
Yeah.
The second episode takes place on Hoth, which is Snow World, Dagobah, which is Swamp World, Cloud City. Okay. 3 very different environments. Return of the Jedi, back on Tatooine for Jabba, the Jabba parts, and then a little bit on Dagobah, and then you have the Forest Moon. So it's obviously lush, whatever, and then the Death Star. Vastly different environments.
Yeah.
Rey is on Jakku, which if you didn't tell me it was Jakku, might as well have been Tatooine.
Right.
And I just started rewatching The Mandalorian just for fun because the kids want to watch it because they like Baby Yoda.
Sure.
The first episode takes place on not one, but 2 desert planets, neither of which are named Tatooine, so far as I know, but they could be.
Right.
Like, I don't understand what the obsession with like desert planets is in Star Wars. Please make it stop.
The largest desert in the world is the Antarctica.
It's Tatooine. Oh.
Maybe it's because most of the world is like, barren and desolate and terrible. And this is an allegory for the world.
Right.
At hand. Tatooine.
They just need to get off the planet.
They do.
I liked the Fennec stuff, the steampunk kind of weird tattoo shop.
I love that.
It was kind of.
I loved it just because he's like appointment only.
Yeah. I was like, is that Andre? At first, I was like, is that Andre 3000?
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
I don't think it was, but
it wasn't
like the weird
sort
of like techno music in the background. Like it was just kind of off. It felt like it didn't fit. It was kind of cool.
Right.
It felt like it didn't fit to me anyway.
Yeah.
I think that business needs to really pick up in this season.
This is a business that's, has a reputation, but COVID's hit it and it needs something else. It needs a ladies' night. Pick up business.
I don't understand any of those analogies.
Worked in the restaurant world for a little while, so I follow a lot of restaurant stuff.
Not a single one.
Just it needs something to lighten, get the crowd going.
Juice. Yes.
It needs to get the crowd going.
Yeah. And I think that and they've talked about allegedly there's a huge cameo, and now I think we kind of know who it is.
Yeah.
I would imagine. So 3 episodes left, chapter 4, 5, chapter 6, chapter 7. There's going to be some action. They're preparing for a war. I don't think that we're going to get too much like backstory anymore at this point. I think we've pretty much caught up to
know how we can.
Right. Unless they're going to show him investigating how to find Mando and get his suit back, his armor back. Right. But I think that is A, completely unnecessary. And B, that would be a very poor use of time. So we just, we're here now. We want the action. Like
exactly.
We want the action. Somebody's going to double cross him too.
Sure.
I think that's a given. So I think the 3 most likely candidates for a double cross are the Rancor, via the amazing and talented Danny Trejo, and we're going to get to him here in a couple minutes. Chrysanthemum, the Wookiee, or Fennec. I mean,
Yes.
Fennec is a bounty hunter / assassin,
Yeah.
so it's in her nature,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm still not down on the show. I just, I need something.
It's just not. It's B tier.
Yeah,
It's
right.
just not. It's not A tier at this point.
Right.
So that's that.